Welcome to Infosec Decoded, number 45, Collapse. And we're starting with Kaitlyn, who is again destroying the world, apparently.
Well, good news, everybody. MIT back in 1972, MIT produced a study, and Motherboard is covering it in this article, written by I'm going to mess up this person's name, Nafiz Ahmed. Anyway, so in 1972, MIT predicted that we could not grow our economy infinitely forever. Like there's going to be a point where we can't grow, any faster, and there's going to be an economic collapse. And a lot of people blew it off and said, "Oh no, we can just grow our economy forever and ever and ever." But newer looks at our growth have mirrored what the people in 1972 predicted, and apparently, it's looking like our societal collapse will occur around 2040.
Yep.
So,
because we used up all the resources, right? Which anybody could tell you by just looking at the weather.
right. So well, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a quote unquote terminal decline of economic growth within the coming decade, and at worst could trigger societal collapse by 2040.
So that's when Texas secedes from the Union.
Well,
That's when everyone's seceding from each other and getting their guns and starting little communes.
so clearly we could be a prepper.
Pretty much,
Yes.
yep. So
Yes.
apparently there are like 10 key variables they were looking at: population, fertility rates, mortality rates, industrial output, food production, services, non-renewable resources, persistent pollution, human welfare, and ecological footprints. And these studies show a halt in growth within a decade or so from where we are at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think anybody with any sense, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with her Green New Deal, has seen this coming and said we're going to have to move from this exponential increase forever to a stable society where we live within our means. And that's the best outcome. And we'll see how we get there. But, I remember when I was young, I used to freak out about things like this. The end of the world is coming in a few decades. And then I learned that's not what happens. What happens is it's a challenge for every generation to solve their generation's problem. And everybody has some destructive world-ending problem to cope with. And then there's another one and another one. That's just how it goes.
Yep.
Anyway, we really need to stop over expanding and polluting the place and stuff. I think that's pretty obvious by now. Anyway, Irvin has got Google with more privacy protections.
Yes, Google Chrome is going to start using this HTTPS first mode, where you type in a website and it will try to go to HTTP first instead of HTTP.
Why haven't they been doing that for 20 years now that you mention it?
Well, Firefox started doing it in November of 2020.
Why would they ever do anything else? Now that you mention it,
Right?
this seems like a no-brainer.
Right. Well, it's slowly rolling out. So we'll see it in Chrome on 90. Firefox already has it. But yes, you are totally right. This is a no-brainer. Why haven't we been doing this from the start?
All the sites, including one of mine, have a redirect from HTTP to HTTPS, and people say that makes it more secure. And I've always complained that makes it less secure. And now that you mention it, it makes no sense, and it never has made any sense. You should try for HTTPS and only go to HTTP if that fails.
Right. It should be the reverse, but no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, it'll be just in time for the world to collapse.
Well, a little bit before that, 10 or 20 years, apparently. We have 10 or 20 years of wild partying before the world collapses. Anyway, all right. Alan's got Proofpoint.
Yes, Kim Zetter, longtime investigative journalist and specialist in cybersecurity, has a story and analysis on her Substack page. It's building on a story released by the Washington Post on Tuesday, revealing that the Justice Department had tried to get email records from Washington Post reporters so that they could find out who in the Trump administration was leaking classified information to journalists. And interestingly, the way the Justice Department went about this was, rather than trying to subpoena Gmail, which I believe was the email provider for the Washington Post, they instead went after Proofpoint, which is a cybersecurity company that provides a bunch of different services, but among them, email filtering, filtering for malicious attachments and content in emails. And so this is a kind of supply chain attack, if you will, in that rather than going after the email provider, they instead went after another entity that also touches those emails. So anyway, this is what the Department of Justice did under the Trump administration. And frankly, this kind of behavior is not unexpected of the Trump administration. But the fact that they went after Proofpoint rather than Gmail, that is a novelty there. Now, that was under the Trump administration. The Biden administration has made clear that they will not be pursuing this investigation any further. So it's been dropped. However, it does set a dangerous precedent, depending on one's perspective, because this uncovers another supply chain attack, if you will. This, of course, affecting privacy of journalists and their sources.
But that's only if you mistrust your government. I mean, they went there with a court order, so everything's fine.
Yes, well, right. That court order makes everything okay.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, it's not 100% clear how this panned out with the Washington Post, but the New York Times also received this from the Department of Justice. And what they did was they successfully slow rolled the DOJ request until the Biden administration came along and then told the DOJ to stop the investigation. So it appears that the Washington Post buckled early, whereas the New York Times was able to hold them off for a while longer.
Yeah. Well, that's it's certainly one of those thorny issues. How much should the government be able to get at tracking down journalist sources?
Yes.
Yeah. I know they can simply demand it from journalists, and the journalists have no right to refuse, and they can jail them for not handing over their sources.
But they do that very seldom. And then the journalists are usually celebrated by their colleagues for being principled.
Yep. So I guess doing it in a sneaky way is a better political move. Anyway, this one I thought was very interesting. Google has a new update about 4 new 0 days, but the part I thought was interesting is these 0 days are obviously being used by sophisticated APT type attackers because they would first fingerprint your phone and then decide whether to waste the 0 day attacking you, risking it. And they show that there's more 0 days than there ever have been, not by a lot, like 32 so far this year, but there have never been even 30 in a previous year, back to 2014. But the part I thought was very interesting is that 3 out of the 4 new 0 days are the product of commercial 0 day generators. These are shops that hack things, find 0 days, and then sell them as weapons to the highest bidder. And this is apparently the main way 0 days are created now, is by shops that just make them to sell them for profit. So it's very much like other guns for sale. And they found 2 0 days in Chrome and 1 in Safari and 1 in Internet Explorer. So it's they're out there, but I think they're expensive. Anyway, I think it's interesting that they're created by private 0 day creators now, the #1 source of them. Anyway, and then we're back to Kaitlyn with Netflix.
Yes, Bloomberg. I know we're not big fans of Bloomberg here, but I believe them in this article. Lucas Saw over at Bloomberg has an article talking about how Netflix plans to offer video games in addition to TV and movies moving forward. And this is pretty surprising. This is the first move by one of the major streamers to get into the video game market. And so there's a few other specifically video game oriented live services. And I'm thinking like Google Stadia, which failed. So there's something by Amazon, which failed. There's a trend with these online game Netflix type things. They all fail. But Netflix thinks it'll be different.
I mean, Steam is enormous, right? They totally
Steam is different. Steam is not a subscription service. So you actually buy the games and then you play them and you download them. The way that these online services work, like Stadia, is that you rent them and then you play over the internet and you stream the images from the screens that are being rendered on the servers to your computer.
So that sounds like your bad internet connection would foul up the game.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Supposedly, if you have a good internet connection, though, it's a pretty good experience. But most people do prefer to actually have the games on their systems.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see where Netflix goes with this, and if it'll be successful. Because in technology, and really any business in the field, you really need to grow, right? You need to expand into new areas. And it seems like Netflix kind of reached its peak in terms of what it was initially setting out to do. And so I guess the new frontier that it wants to move into is video games, which means that now our service providers for content is also going to be streaming computer code onto our devices, which will be very interesting for security.
Yes. Sounds like good, clean fun. Hopefully that stuff will be all signed and stuff and secured by the blockchain or some other.
Yeah. Good one, Sam.
Yeah, nice.
Security feature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, and Windows 11 in the cloud is what Irvin's got, which I heard about. This actually sounds like a pretty good idea.
So I knew this was coming. I saw this from a mile away, that Microsoft would finally offer Windows as a subscription. So the plan is to offer it for businesses. It'll be Windows 365 Business and Enterprise.
Yeah.
Where it's just like our cloud setups, where anybody would request a Windows box and they would get access to it, and you disconnect, reconnect later, continue your session. It's built with those people who are working from home in mind and running everything from Azure, of course.
Yeah.
It's going to start August 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Virtual desktop on Azure is something a lot of companies want.
Mm-hmm. So it's finally here, Windows in the cloud.
And just like we've been teaching classes all week and discovered the same thing, I found increasingly people have trashy old computers and everything has to be in the cloud. If you want them to actually do anything, it's best to just put it in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a
So
lot of
now
sense.
you'll be able to get a subscription for that to work.
Yeah. Because in fact, you currently can do this. You can deploy Windows 10 desktops virtually in Azure, but apparently it's hard to set up. And I presume if you paid for this, it would become a point-and-click experience to get it.
That's the idea, yes.
Yeah, I think that'll be a popular service. All right. And Alan's got Tennessee.
Tennessee is leading the country in COVID vaccinations or COVID vaccination policy. Yes, this according to Brett Kelman at the Tennessean, broke a story about how the Tennessee Department of Health is taking the lead in stopping all adolescent vaccine outreach in the state of Tennessee. And they have also fired, as of Monday, the lead state health department vaccine, I've forgotten her title, but the head of the vaccine outreach program at the Tennessee Department of Health.
Yeah.
And under this I don't know, pressure campaign by Republican lawmakers in Tennessee, the State Department of Public Health can no longer target teenagers for any kind of vaccine communication. And not just COVID vaccine information, but any kind of vaccine information. So we really are at this point reaching peak anti-vax and QAnon, because the rationale given for not communicating vaccine information to teenagers is because, quote, that could be, quote, potentially interpreted as solicitation to minors, as in sexual solicitation.
Oh.
So I'm not making this up. It's, quote, potentially interpreted as solicitation to minors.
Well, I thought the point
Somebody
was
has a completely
in Tennessee,
different.
it's legal for 14-year-olds to get a vaccine without their parents' permission, but they don't want to encourage that.
Well, exactly, yes. And apparently, according to a 38-year-old ruling by the Tennessee State Supreme Court, it is okay for adolescents to go and get a vaccine without their parents' direct permission. But For whatever reason, the Republican Party in Tennessee is now backtracking on that and is obviously very forcibly, um, I don't know what you can call it, but they're pushing back against the Department of Public Health's efforts to actually get the word out and to actually do vaccines. And this is a relatively new problem because before the pandemic, 95% of Tennessee sixth graders were fully vaccinated for your usual polio, measles, mumps, rubella, et cetera, et cetera. And so it seemed like a pretty broadly accepted bipartisan concept, vaccinations. But thanks to the pandemic and the previous federal administration, it appears that this has now become highly politicized. And so now, well, I guess kids just aren't supposed to get vaccinated in Tennessee.
Yep. And I think Republicans aren't supposed to get vaccinated anywhere. I think more than half of them are refusing to get vaccinated. It is it's an interesting issue of politics and psychology. I mean,
yes. Yeah, it's become profoundly politicized at this point.
And, they're all willing to like jump off this cliff just to be in the herd, which is something I've heard people say. People are not rational thinkers. They are social thinkers. They just conform to their group. And obviously that is true.
Now more than ever, clearly.
At least it's more obvious now than ever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Anyway, it is fascinating and horrifying to watch the collapse of America for no good reason. I would like to think we would collapse because we ran out of resources or we got invaded by somebody. But no, we decided to just tear ourselves apart for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Well, what amazes me is that relatively abstract concepts like climate change or, I don't know, peak oil or reduced access to various natural resources, those are very difficult concepts for people to respond to. But you would think a pandemic, of all things, that has immediate and clear consequences to people's well-being, that would get people motivated. But no, I guess not.
Well, they're motivated. They're just motivated in the wrong direction.
Right, motivated in the wrong ways.
I think many PhD theses are going to be written analyzing exactly what happened to America. This is very strange and not what I would have thought. Well, anyway, The Fed chairman says the U.S. might take a digital currency, and that would be the end of Bitcoin and Tether. And boy, I wouldn't cry about Tether. But he said, if there was an official U.S. digital dollar, then you wouldn't need Tether, and you probably wouldn't need Bitcoin either. Although I think he might be wrong about the Bitcoin part, because the U.S. federal currency would probably not be very useful for money laundering, which is the only thing Bitcoin is good for anyway. But anyway, China's going to have a digital currency. El Salvador is going to switch to Bitcoin. Many other people are looking into digital currencies, and it seems inevitable that the U.S. will have one. They haven't officially announced it yet, but I think several big investment companies are totally going into digital currency. It's coming, which is why I'm encouraging students to learn how to program it and secure it. And for God's sake, don't invest in it, so we can sell shovels to these poor idiots going to die digging up the gold. None of it makes a lick of sense, in case anybody cares, but just like the last topic we were discussing, the fact that it makes no sense doesn't seem to matter at all. So we're going to live in a world of blockchain and many cryptocurrencies and not much vaccine. So we might as well just adapt to it and sell these people hamburgers and shovels as they gleefully march off to their doom. Anyway, that's my theory about it. And Kaitlyn has gotten another SolarWinds hack. Now, not another one, right?
Well, no. So this is another hack by the SolarWinds hackers. So the group that did SolarWinds, Ars Technica, has an article by Dan Gooden, talking about how the Russian group, what are they called? The SVR, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, which was responsible for the SolarWinds hacks, also has some iOS 0 days that they've been using on LinkedIn. Apparently, they've been sending people messages and links on LinkedIn, and they've been taking over people's phones. I don't know the specifics of the 0 day or what they're exploiting, but apparently if you go to a link, you can exploit some people's iPhones. And 0 days are just exploding. And we already mentioned in this podcast, but there's just this huge market now for people that just want to buy 0 days. and there are private companies willing to sell to the highest bidder. I shouldn't even say companies, just individuals, nefarious individuals who all paid to the highest bidder. So it's no longer an issue of technical prowess to have a 0 day. You don't need to have a team of researchers on your side. You just need to have resources. So if you have the money to just buy a 0 day now, apparently you can.
So is this, did they attack the US? Is this violating, Biden supposedly went and told Putin, all right, knock it off or else. And is this already violating it or what?
So I don't know exactly when this happened. So this was published on Wednesday on Google, that they said it was likely a Russian government-backed actor.
Mhm.
I don't know when they were sending the messages or when it started, when this campaign started.
Yeah.
But
I think all Biden's threats are pretty much empty anyway. We really
Yeah.
can't start a cyber war with Russia because we have most of the targets over here. Anyway, all right. And Irvin's got big tech.
Big Tech doesn't want the FTC chair to be there. She has been speaking out against them for a while, and now they're the big groups like Amazon and who else was? Oh, Facebook. They're all trying to put motions in place to kick her out of that chair, because they know that with her there, she's gonna rule against them and bring down the hammer on them. They're trying to do everything they can to avoid that from happening.
Well, she'll probably try, but the FTC and the FCC have limited power that keeps getting cut back by courts. But anyway, that's my alma mater. I was a contractor at the FTC at one time. And the only thing they did when I was there was make sure that you lived up to the terms you claimed and that you didn't run a pyramid scheme. It was mostly pyramid schemes when I was there. Mm-hmm. But now everyone's talking about breaking up big tech, but I highly doubt it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're scared enough to be doing things to stop her rather than just shrugging her off.
Well, yeah, all right. They're maneuvering.
Yeah, they're maneuvering. So to me, I'm like, okay, she's actually a threat then.
Well, yeah, might be nice if somebody would limit the abuses of big tech, and the FTC is one possible way it might happen. All right, and Alan's got a driverless car sharing service.
Yes, Halo Cars is going to be introducing a new service to Las Vegas. They're going to have 5 vehicles where you can summon a vehicle to wherever it is you are, just like you would with Uber or Lyft. However, that car arrives without a driver. And so once it gets to you, you can sit in the driver's seat and drive it as you would your very own car. You get to your destination, get out, and then the car drives off all by itself. However, this is not autonomous driving. The way this works is that there is a person who can control the vehicle remotely.
Like a drone.
Like a drone, exactly. And so the whole idea is that T-Mobile, which has invested into this company, is going to leverage 5G mobile broadband and stream video from cameras mounted to the vehicle. And then this Halo operation is going to have their drone operators who will then drive the vehicles to customers.
So what's the benefit of this?
Well, I guess the idea is that you get some of the benefits of a service where people don't need to own a car. And so they can just hail a vehicle, but then do the driving themselves. But then Halo themselves is not responsible for killing the occupant of that vehicle when an accident inevitably occurs.
Wait, now, hold on. What was inevitable about that? Wait a minute. Something happened.
Yeah, this is just my interpretation. But incidentally, they claim that they will also be able to. Yeah. What's that?
Have you considered a career in advertising and marketing?
Well, I know. Well, let me give you some more of the hard sell here. Apparently, they also have technology that enables them to detect if the customer, the driver, the customer who hailed the vehicle and is now driving the vehicle, if they are inebriated.
That's
And
a
then
good
they can,
idea, especially in Vegas.
yes, yes. So they can cut that person off somehow. I don't know, pull the vehicle over to the side of the road or whatever. But we still have the issue of these remote operators of the cars. And there's a picture in this Fast Company article, in fact, that shows one of these super wide curved monitors, the kind that's popular with first person shooter games nowadays.
Neat.
And you can see that there are 3 cameras streaming to this operator, and he's got a steering wheel there, and it looks like a pretty good driving setup, for racing sims. But now you're going to have people doing this work.
So why doesn't the remote driver just drive it all the time?
Well, one wonders. One wonders.
I wonder a lot of things. Well, I think the only advantage of this is you could say you're not going to catch COVID because there's no driver in there. You'll be all alone. I mean,
this is
between
true.
side or something, but
This is true, but I have to think that this is just an intermediate step for the company, and that it's like a proof of concept at this point. They're going to prove that these remote operators are capable of piloting the cars and they don't kill too many pedestrians along the way. And at some point, Las Vegas being Las Vegas, which apparently is very permissive when it comes to self-driving or remote driving vehicles, they're going to approve this model of not AI powered, but remote driver powered vehicle piloting.
I was thinking the way they saved money was this guy is driving 5 of them at once. That would be awesome. And and the other thing is, what do you do when it loses its internet connection?
Yes. Well, I think that's where T-Mobile's on the hook. Now, they claim.
Oh, that's real reassuring.
Yeah, I know. T-Mobile, not the best operator out there. They claim, T-Mobile does, that, and Halo claim that it's okay if it temporarily gets bumped down to 4G. Temporarily.
Well, that's okay, but what if it just cuts out entirely?
Entirely. Well, then I imagine there's a bit of an issue. So, and there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no backup system in place. These vehicles do not have LiDAR installed. So they are wholly dependent on either a person driving in the vehicle or having a remote operator.
This just keeps sounding better and better as you keep explaining it.
It reminds me of nuclear submarines where they say, if you lose contact with the base, just continue to obey the last order you received.
Yeah, just blow right through those stop signs.
That's right.
What's the harm in that?
Yeah.
But there is a precedent for this technology. There's this company called Kiwi Bots, and they were delivering burritos in Berkeley using these cute little devices, little robots that were claimed to be 100% autonomous.
Yeah, I remember those things. They look like rolling trash cans.
Yeah, well, no, they're much smaller than that. But it turned out that these vehicles were actually being remote piloted by a team of people in Colombia, and that I don't know, somehow they made this work. Not all that well. I actually saw one operating in Berkeley, and the thing ran into a person and was going on the grass and got kind of hung up on the edge of the sidewalk and the grass. And so
a few years ago, this happened for a whole lot of AI devices that could play chess and stuff. And then they found there was a person hiding in there and it was all fake.
Right. The Mechanical Turk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's revolutionary about Halo is that they're not even trying to hide it. They're being very upfront about it. And I don't know. I think it's almost more trustworthy than the AI. Almost.
Well, I would think a person would be able to drive better than an AI, but I don't know. Well, all right.
But if they lose connection, that's the scary part. If and when they lose connection. Progress
marches on. I'll have to get one of those in Vegas. I'll give that all the consideration it is due. And so the last one here is the COVID in Vegas. A bunch of people are freaking out and saying they're not going to DEF CON after all. COVID is spiking. Vegas is up to 11% positivity. Everyone is getting the Delta variant. But, then they say the hospital workers, even if they've been vaccinated, they're getting it. But you know, it's the same thing they said all along. Even if you're vaccinated, you can technically get it in that you test positive on a test, but you don't get sick. You don't go to the hospital. You don't die. And you probably don't even have enough of it to spread it. So it seems to me like we are justified in going to Vegas where we can cheerfully have our DEF CON as long as we're willing to just laugh at the people dropping dead around us and mock at them instead of feeling sorry for them. We'll be fine. That's my interpretation.
So business as usual.
Well, you know, it's kind of a new thing that so many of our people just want to commit suicide around us, but I think we just need to adapt to it as the new normal. And I got some fun insults on Twitter from it. One that I thought might fit on a t-shirt, but I already forgot. I'm like stupid and heartless or something. I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. Stupid and heartless. That's about right. Anyway, would have made a good title for the episode too. But anyway, so that's it for this one. And next week, I think we're back to our regular schedule, which is Tuesday morning. So have a good weekend, folks.